What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first YouTube video for Tinker Motorsports and Fabrication, where today we're going to talk about that guy and that guy and what we're changing, what's going on with these motor plates, and that alternator being down there, and hopefully we can figure some stuff out. Alright, so what we've got going on here is that is a balancer with F-body, or excuse me, with truck spacing. And I used to have the truck brackets up here, the alternator was up there. Changed some stuff up with this thing and went to factory F-body lower mount. And obviously we've got a motor plate on there. Motor plate's 250 thou.
Wait, that came out wrong.
Lower mount. And obviously we've got a motor plate on there. Motor plate's 250 thou.
No.
So this guy right here is a 1/2 inch. That spacer that I turned. That guy right down there. That one is 750 thou, because the difference between F-body spacing and truck spacing is 750 thou. So that's 750 down there. That is a 1/2 inch to take into account for the 250 thou on the motor plate.
No.
And that allows the alternator to line back up with the truck body spacing, or the, truck spacing. And the only reason I didn't change it is because the drag link underneath the truck and where the fuel pump and everything sits is already kind of set up to make things easier. It was easier just to turn some spacers and to adapt a couple of things instead of just spending the money on another hub for F-body spacing, and it works a little bit better this way. I can make my own parts, so it's not a big deal. As far as the third one goes, the third bolt right here, which is hovering, because this block does not have the boss in the casting. So what I'm going to do, the motor plate's already been trimmed off, so instead of making a whole new motor plate, what I'm going to do is weld, I think what I'm going to do is weld a tab off the bottom, and then turn another spacer, and then thread it, maybe. Still haven't made my mind up yet. But what I would want to do is incorporate a location that's threaded to utilize the third bolt right there, and tie it all in together. That way you don't end up with a nut on the back side. So like I said, either weld a horseshoe on it or turn a standoff that gets welded to the motor plate that's already drilled and tapped. So when this guy threads in, it bottoms out, stops on the spacer, keeps its location the way it should, and then it's already threaded. That way you don't have anything on the back. At least that's what I'm thinking at this point. We'll see how it goes. Don't need to overcomplicate it. Just put a line down there, lop this guy off on the bandsaw, get a nice bevel across here front and back, sink some weld in front and back on there, put this back on, and then that will allow me the location right here. The hole is already located from the factory mount, if it was there, because that motor plate's universal. So if it was a block that had that hole there, that will give me the location. Then I can machine my standoff, weld that on, that's drill and tapped, and then that will be the new location to hold that third bolt that's missing. So over here at the trusty do-all vertical, actually you can see where when I was putting this thing together, this is actually where I was sanding the thrust bearing to get my thrust clearance that I wanted. So another little tidbit, this is a Blanchard ground table, but threw some shop towels down, took a piece of glass, put the glass on there, put your sandpaper on there, some 3-in-1 oil, and then that right there is where I fine-tuned my thrust bearing clearance. Didn't take any videos of it, but this was still sitting here on the weld table, or excuse me, on the bandsaw table. Alright, so I just taped that piece on that I just cut back off, And now it might make a little bit more sense. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm gonna put that back on. That will not only locate where that hole should be, if that guy was rocked back up in the position. Y'all see what's going on now? So I'll lop that off. I'll include the thickness of the bandsaw blade when I weld it back on. That will locate where the center needs to be. And then I will turn the spacer and then thread it so we don't have a nut on the back side. And keep in mind too, we already have 2 points of contact, one right there, one right there. And even though this is going to be floating, it's not cantilevered that far off of here. So there's a lot of people that already run these things with only 2 bolts. You know, I've got the stuff here to at least add a 3rd attachment point just to kind of tighten it up a little bit more, even though it's cantilevered and it's not into the block. I mean, daggone, if it works for the guys with 2 bolts, 3, even if it's cantilevered floating, better than nothing. All right, I wanted to show y'all what I did here. I got it clamped down. That's the piece that I cut off. Got my 3rd hand there, kind of holding that in position. Got the main plate clamped down. But you can see there, I beveled that thing out. Gave myself the same thickness, just eyeballing, as what the bandsaw blade was to account for that when I cut it off. You see it's beveled top and bottom. And keep in mind too, y'all, this is just adding extra support. It's not anything super crazy, and that is going to have a threaded standoff welded to it as well, going that way. So just showing y'all some stuff. I did just a grinder with a flapper wheel on there, and something else. Aluminum is ruthless with cleanliness. So if you use a flapper to clean aluminum or put a bevel, I always come back with a file and then file off whatever I can, because when you're welding, or excuse me, when you're grinding, the flapper will leave little pieces of grit from the flapper disc embedded in the aluminum, and it'll give you some problems. So flappered it to get the bevel, came back with a file, cleaned off the top, then came back with an acetone wipe and mocked it all up, and we'll stick it together. Alright, so there we go. We got that guy walked in. Front, back. Always wrap those corners, boys and girls. Always wrap the corners. Alright, so we will see what needs to happen after this. We'll see if it worked a little bit. Might dress it up, throw it in the mill, wipe it back down, and move on to the spacer. We're not building watches, but you can see we're just gave a witness off of that, came across. Now when we weld that spacer on, a threaded spacer, we know this thing is flat. Alright, so next day we're back. I did not take a video of welding the threaded spacer onto the plate because things were getting kind of long, and I'm new at this whole editing thing. So, but what you can see is it all finished up. So we got the top spacer right there. We got the bottom right down there, and then we do have our threaded welded on spacer right there, so it stays on the motor plate. And right now I've just got some mock-up bolts in here. That guy right there was just one that I had sitting around. These two are actually main cap bolts from my North Star. But I want to bring something up. I made a boo-boo. In the first part of the video, I made the comment about this being 250 thou thick, and that's what drove our dimension off the difference between the truck spacing and the F-body spacing and the 0.75. So the 0.75 is a fact, but I assumed that this was 250, which drove that dimension. It is not 250. It is actually, where is it? It's actually 263, which means I had to take my spacer back off, throw it back in the mill, in the lathe, and remove some spacing because it was not right. I made a couple of comments about not building watches, but somehow I always seem to make it that complicated. So, successful job, happy with it. I've got the correct length bolts coming in the mail. We've got our MechMan 250 amp alternator with the billet case in place. Super happy with the way it turned out. Yeah. So, super sweet. Had a good time making those little parts and making that work. Hopefully you guys like this. I would like to make some more of them as time allows, and y'all come along with the journey on making Tinker another world record holder. We're coming back for it. It's gonna happen. See ya.